Thank you for joining us for The Sky Above, where we will tell you everything happening in the sky this upcoming month so you can plan ahead and know when to look up. I'm Leah Pizzetti. Here is what is heading your way right now on this February episode. A parade of planets. Multiple planets are visible in February. We'll tell you how to best catch these cool sights. And for the first time ever, NASA's newest class of astronauts is majority women, and one of them is from the Pacific Northwest. We talked to this Washington native about how her roots locally are launching her to space and what astronaut training looks like. Plus, a big focus right now is getting back to the moon. The first hurdle is on the horizon. We'll have a look at the launch of Artemis II and what this step means for the mission to the moon. Thank you so much for being with us for this February episode of The Sky Above. I am your host, meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. I'm joined, as always, by NASA's Solar System Ambassador and member of the Seattle Astronomical Society, Keith Crum. Keith, thank you so much, as always, for being with us today.
Thank you, Leah. Great to be here. February is going to be a cool month.
Oh, I'm so excited. A lot of big national, global headlines coming our way in the month of February. So we'll get to all of it. But let's start as we always do. We want to get everybody ready to go, know when to look up. We'll start with our full moon. So the February full moon.
February 1st.
Came and went.
Came and went. That's right.
Let's talk about the February full moon, though. What's it called?
It's called the snow moon, which is a nice one. You know, every time we talk about this, I always look to the Native American people for their names. And, you know, they have some really interesting ones.
Yep.
This time, it was from the Cree people and was the bald eagle moon. And I like the bald eagle. Maybe that's snowy head, you know, something. So that was from the Cree.
I like that.
Was a good one.
So, okay, if people missed the full moon on the 1st, the new moon, of course, is the 17th, and that's when we have the dark sky. So that is what we like to pay attention to in astronomy world.
For sure. Get out there in the night sky. That's going to be actually the start of the parade of planets, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit.
Okay, perfect timing.
That's a good day to start watching the parade of planets, is on the new moon day.
Okay, so we'll hope for clear skies on the 17th. And if people missed the February full moon, we can just mark our calendars, get ready to go for March. The March full moon is March 2nd, the morning of the 3rd, so also an early in the month full moon. Okay, let's talk about the Aurora. Once again, we'll do a little bit of a recap. January brought the Northern Lights on display. It was really cool to see. We'll do a quick recap, and then let's talk about kind of big picture. Will it be visible once again? So if you remember, in mid-January, we actually did see some KP values in that 7 to actually close to the 9 range, which is great. That is a strong G4 geomagnetic storm. We want to show you, if we can, some visuals taken by our viewers during that time frame that were sent in. So really incredible. Did you get to see it, Keith?
I did not. No, I didn't see it this time around. I think I went out. We went out and we looked north, but I don't think we were in a dark enough spot to really see it. We were out in Duvall.
Which is the secret, of course. You have to be in dark sky viewing. We also did have some foggy conditions, which I know hindered it for some people, but these are some of the visuals that people did send in. So we've talked about this before. Let's just remind everybody. The aurora is plasma ejected from the sun that travels 1,000,000 miles per hour toward Earth. And I think sometimes people get frustrated and they say, oh my gosh, I missed it. But this is something that we can only give a kind of short heads up on.
Yeah, well, you know, the light that we know, the flares come out. We know when they come out. And the light from those flares gets here way ahead of the material getting here. So we do have some warning, and that's where some of the projections come from about how big they're going to be and so forth, because you can see those flares early. What we need are the flares coming toward us. So, you know, there's flares all the time that go out to the side, especially in the solar cycle, at the peak of the solar cycle. But we need them coming toward us, and we do get some warning about them.
Yeah, what's the time?
Not only do we get the warning about them a couple days ahead, we could get them so that we can protect things that are orbiting the Earth, satellites and other things too. So
because it can have an impact on satellites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And let's talk about the big picture here. So we've mentioned, you just said it, the cycle. This is an 11-year cycle where every 11 years we see a peak. It's like a bell curve when you look at it, of that increased solar activity. So if we take a look at the bell curve, you can actually see kind of where it peaked there was actually 2024. That was the summer of 2024 when it peaked. But we're still up there. That pink line is indicating where we are at the beginning of 2026. It flattens around 2028. So there is still heightened opportunity to see it.
Yep, definitely. You see those peaks, and many of those have surprised us. So that really big one that's right in the middle there, I mean, that was kind of a surprise. People didn't know that was coming. I mean, you can see the projection of it, and you can see the best fit curve on that chart, but you can see those shooting up like that. Those were the ones that really caught our attention.
Yeah.
And any of those can come at any time.
And so it looks like for the next, I don't know, 1, 2, maybe even 3 years, we could have an elevated risk continuing?
Yeah, yep, at least for this year, for sure. This year is a good chance.
So that's a good reminder for everybody.
Yeah.
This year, we'll probably get a couple days heads up, but if you hear that alert, keep your ears open.
I think one more thing it's worth noting on this chart is that what they're counting there are sunspots. So this has been done for 25 of these times 11 years, so almost 300 years, right? They've been counting sunspots. So that's what the y-axis is here on the chart.
And those sunspots are what's actually visible for us.
Right.
That's awesome.
There are other methods of doing it as well, but that's kind of the main thing, is to look at the sunspots.
Cool. Okay. All right. So everybody, stay tuned. Listen up. If you hear us say, keep your eyes up, keep your eyes up.
That's right.
Okay, speaking of keeping your eyes up, another neat sight that will grace the night skies this month. I'm very excited about this one. A parade of planets.
Parade of planets, yes.
Let's go through those planets that will be visible and what this means and how people can check it out.
Very good. So right at sunset on the 17th, which is the new moon day.
Dark sky.
Yep. You'll see right at sunset, right on the horizon will be the bright Venus. Will be right there next to it.
Okay.
So then going back to the east, you'll see Jupiter. Now I'm talking about early evening now. So Jupiter, as with everything, is rising in the east. And then looking then from the east to the south, you'll see Uranus. And then the west, kind of together, you'll see Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, and again Venus right on the horizon, just after sunset.
Wow.
So the thing to watch here then is through the month, because as the month goes on, those planets will begin to move up in the sky higher and higher as the month goes on.
Okay.
So that's why you'll be able to see Venus better. Some of the information that's out there right now says go look on the 28th, but I'm saying start on the 17th and watch the parade through the whole month.
Cool. And what will this look like to the naked eye?
Well, you cannot see Neptune or Uranus, but you can see Venus.
Okay.
Obviously, you can see Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn.
Okay.
So yeah, there's 6 there.
So, I mean, binoculars, telescope, what's ideal for this?
Well, binoculars for sure.
Okay.
And if you get access to a telescope, that'll be for the dimmer planets, the ones that are harder to see.
Okay. Neat. All right. We will look forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay, and Keith, every single month you always talk about dark sky etiquette.
Yeah, dark sky etiquette.
And we have our red light, as we know. You don't want to use a white light because that hinders your vision.
Yeah.
But red light, what do we have this month for our new way of dark sky etiquette?
We have no flashlight month. No red, no white. Let's just not even use flashlights.
Okay.
Let's use luminescent pebbles.
No way.
Yeah, so these are, this is why I call it hack the month. A hack is something where you use something for something else. Isn't that what a hack is?
Yeah, exactly.
So these are aquarium pebbles.
Okay.
And you can set these out. I don't know who can see this. But,
they can see it, yeah, we've got
you
it.
can set these out in a row between you and your telescope or around your telescope.
Okay.
Then you don't need a flashlight. You can just follow the pebbles like
No glow in the dark?
They glow in the dark. They're luminescent pebbles, yeah.
I love it. I think what is that, 8 now that you've had different ways of
Something
being
like
able
that.
to explore in the dark without actually using a white light, because that will hinder your vision.
These are really handy because there's a lot of times I don't even want to turn on any light at all, because even the smallest amount of red light will still affect your night vision. So these don't at all, you know, and you can see your way around and just follow the path.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And another fun demonstration that you have. I need to know what this is.
Well, this is called a MOVA globe,
Okay.
and it runs off ambient light.
Okay.
So you can see it turning.
Okay.
And also, it is regulated in its speed by being connected to the Earth's magnetic field. So there's magnets in there. So it's kind of like a compass.
Okay.
It does the same kind of thing. And yeah, they're really cool. I mean, I've got a whole set of these, but I brought this one in today because I thought we'd talk about what is the size difference between this Jupiter. If we shrunk Jupiter down to this 4.5 inches, what would the Earth be?
Jupiter, so that's Jupiter.
That's Jupiter.
What would the ratio?
The largest planet in the solar system.
Okay.
It has twice as much mass as all the other planets put together.
Okay.
And it's large. It's the largest one.
I would love to see. How big is Earth in comparison to Jupiter?
There you go. I don't have an Earth, but I have a marble.
Here, we'll hold the marble up. Can everybody see? There we go. This is Earth.
Yeah.
This is Jupiter. That is
There you
here,
go.
we'll prop it up. There we
There you
go.
go.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so
11 times.
how does that make you feel
11
small?
11 times the diameter.
Wow.
We think Earth's pretty big.
True. So when you actually think about it, perspective-wise, that is the size difference. Oh my goodness. And what about the distance?
Well, the distance is, it varies based on the orbits, but it's about 400 million miles right now.
Okay. So what would how far away would we have to hold it?
Well, it would be King Street Station, which is about a half a mile from here.
Okay, so I'll go take a half-mile hike, and that'll be the distance.
Yeah, that would be the
goodness. Oh, I love this. It's a great example. Put it into perspective and really give it a relatability.
Yeah.
Okay, Keith, thank you. We're going to keep you sticking around, and we'll come back and talk to you later. But we're going to take a quick break. Still ahead after the break, a Washington woman is chosen to become one of NASA's newest astronauts.
We're learning everything from how to fly, airplanes, practice for spacewalks, get to learn about a lot of the ISS, the space station systems.
Lauren Edgar is from Sammamish and joins me to share her journey from her research on Earth to now training for a possible mission to the moon. We talk one-on-one with her and her NASA training after the break. Joining me now is Lauren Edgar, a Washington local from Sammamish and one of the 10 people selected in NASA's newest class of astronauts. Lauren, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Glad to hear everything you have to share. Let's start with the goal of getting to the moon. It's an ambitious one that NASA has set, establishing a presence on the moon in the next few years. What are you contributing to that project as we move forward?
Sure. So I might back up to my time actually before being selected as an astronaut. I was contributing to the Artemis II science team. So I was the deputy principal investigator for the geology team and helping to define some of the surface exploration goals and stations and the types of observations that astronauts might someday make on the moon. But then I was selected as an astronaut, and so now I'm going through 2 years of training before being eligible to be assigned to a mission. But in that time and in my the course of my NASA career after this, I hope to be able to continue to contribute to lunar exploration and then setting our sights on Mars as well.
That's incredible. And let's go back to your background of geology. That's often thought of as an Earth-based science. How are we applying those Earth skills to outer space exploration?
Yeah, so the field of planetary geology means that we get to understand the geology of other planets like the moon and Mars. And a lot of what we do in geology is go to field sites here on Earth to better understand what we're seeing on other planets. And so my background, I was able to do a lot of field work to start to understand some of those processes, think through what would be the best samples that you might want to acquire to bring back and enable all of those studies here on Earth. So this is a really exciting time in the field of geology and planetary geology, especially with our sites on the moon and Mars.
That's incredible. And you right now are in a years-long training process. You said you're in Houston. What does that day-to-day look like? What are some of the physical and mental training that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so I'll spend the first 2 years of my time here in Houston in training as an astronaut candidate. And in that time, we're learning everything from how to fly, airplanes, practice for spacewalks, get to learn about a lot of the ISS, the space station systems. I just came from a robotics class this morning where I'm learning how to operate the robotic arm on the space station. We get some language training, some geology training. So there's a lot of different things that we get to learn about, and it's really exciting to be, getting to learn so many different ways to help explore the solar system.
That's incredible. Has there been anything that has surprised you so far with this training?
Great question on surprises. I think I am just most impressed with how complex vehicles like the International Space Station are, how many different systems need to be working, how to fix things when they're not working, and to think through how we've had a continuous human presence and all of these systems working together for the last 25 years is really an engineering marvel. So I think that's probably a surprise, is just seeing how complex and intricate all of this is.
That must be fascinating. And this is an elite class of astronauts. You're one of 10. Thousands applied, just a few were chosen. I believe I read that it took you a couple tries to get here. Can you tell me about that application process, and why do you think you are the one sitting here on this team right now?
Great question. So yeah, I've applied a couple of times to be an astronaut. It's a USA Jobs application process. In the previous times that I tried, never heard anything. This is the first time that I was called out for the different rounds of interviews, which was amazing to be able to meet all of these other fantastic individuals that were going through that selection process with me. And as far as what led to this ultimate selection, you'll have to ask the selection panel what happened there. But just wanted to say I am so grateful and honored to be a part of this class and standing here alongside my peers.
Yeah, and you've shared that this is a lifelong dream of yours. Can you tell me a little bit about how you fell in love with space early on?
Yeah, so I think growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I had an appreciation for the outdoors and obviously the rich aviation history that we have in the Seattle area. But it wasn't until I went to a space shuttle launch when I was in second grade and I realized there were people on board and they were leaving this planet, and it made me wonder what else is out there. And so that's really what inspired me and kind of set me on this path to pursuing space exploration and the desire to maybe someday be an astronaut. And along the way, found this career path that I absolutely loved, getting to do geology and investigate the solar system.
That's incredible.
So I definitely credit the Northwest in instilling some of that inspiration.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you one more question. This class of astronauts is a majority women for the first time ever. I know there's still a lot of uncertainty, but there is the potential for you to be some of the people who go back to the moon for the first time in 50 years. That's historic in itself, but of course, because we have a lot of women who could be the first women on the moon, where's your headspace with that history that's potentially in the making?
I just think it's so exciting to be here, to be a part of this class. Each and every one of the individuals that's part of this class is a phenomenal human being that I would love to see on the moon someday, love to see in low Earth orbit, making great observations of the Earth and, contributing to, future exploration to Mars. So it is just a huge honor to be here and look forward to everything to come.
Yeah, we know Neil Armstrong's famous first words, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Have you thought about what your words would be if that was you?
I have not thought about that yet, but maybe that's a bit down the line. We'll think about it.
Oh, we have time. We have time. Well, we cannot wait to see how far you explore. Lauren Edgar, one of the newest astronauts with NASA. Thank you so much for your time today. We cannot wait to see what happens through the next couple of years.
Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it.
Coming up, as you heard, Lauren's class of astronauts will be focused on the mission to the moon, and a big step in that direction is happening this month. We'll talk about the Artemis II launch and what that mission entails. Welcome back. Keith joins me once again. You heard Lauren mention the mission back to the moon. Big deal.
Big deal.
All eyes are on the sky here. As we've discussed on previous episodes of The Sky Above, the U.S. and NASA have set their sights on not just going back to the moon, but actually establishing a presence on the moon in the next 5 or so years is the goal, right?
Yeah, yes. Yes, I mean, this is a competition with the Chinese, you know, we want to win it. So everybody's gung-ho to get this mission accomplished.
Yep.
This is a test flight, so.
So a major step toward that goal is set to happen this month in February. Artemis II is set to launch. So Keith, let's talk about the logistics of this mission. It's 4 astronauts.
4 astronauts, yep.
On board.
On board, and they will launch and circle around the moon. It's a 10-day mission, and it is considered a a test flight, because they're not going to land. So this is, if you go back to Artemis I, it was a test flight as well with no astronauts. So this is the second test flight with astronauts. And this is getting ready for Artemis III, which will land on the moon in 2027. So 10-day mission. The first big step is getting past what is called tanking day, which means loading up the rocket with the rocket fuel, the cryogenic propellant. And that's a big deal, to make sure all that works well, simulate the countdown almost to the last second, and then pause it and move on to the next step. But if everything goes well there, then you shoot for a launch no earlier than February 8th.
Okay. And let's just review, once again, 4 astronauts. And I mean, this is a big deal. These 4 astronauts will go down in history. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. This is going to launch from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Like you said, it's a 10-day mission. They are going to go to the far side of the moon. I think there's a song about that. 230,000 miles from Earth. After that journey, they're actually going to use Earth's gravity to pull them back to Earth, which is fascinating. They're then going to land in the Pacific Ocean near San Diego about 10 days after that. This is the route they'll take around that. So 10 days looping around. And like you said, this is kind of, can we go do a lap around the moon? And then Artemis III will be, can we land on the moon? But all of this, like you said, February 8th would be the earliest we would do it. It's weather dependent. Let's talk about the conditions that need to be present in order to actually launch a rocket like this with people on it. That's the big focus, is there are lives on this ship.
Yeah, I mean, there have been problems in the past with weather being too cold in Florida. During the shuttle program, there were problems with launching shuttles for the same reason. So they know the parameters really well about how cold it can be. And with this weird polar vortex we're having right now, it's, getting really cold down there. So they got to watch it really closely.
My goodness. And just let's talk big picture here. This launch, if and when it's successful, what does it mean, big picture, for the journey back to the moon?
Well, I mean, this is a huge step. Artemis I was a huge step. Just, using SLS, this huge rocket, biggest one ever, 332 feet tall. It's a giant thing. And it was so successful. And the SLS, by the way, is Space Launch System. And it's Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Rocketdyne, and United Launch Alliance are the 4 main contractors. And so for this SLS system to work, using a lot of technology that was used on the shuttle rockets, it's just a huge deal to get us there. And then, with the longer range goal of actually establishing a permanent base on the South Pole, where there's water and that kind of thing. So this is a huge step.
Massive deal. All right, Keith. Well, we will look to that launch. Thank you so much for your insight. That is going to do it for us on this February episode of our monthly astronomy show, The Sky Above. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. We will be back with you next month for a brand new episode discussing everything flying through the sky, so you know when to look up.